Hello again, Druids. Today I'm going to talk about the World Team Championship lists. They actually dropped a couple hours before recording this. I'm actually recording on Monday the 20th of August. But yeah, the lists were submitted earlier today. They, although I think they had to be in by like midnight, like London time or something. I'm not sure. And yeah, those lists dropped, so I figured I would do a video talking about them. We're going to focus mostly on what's going on with Circle, but we're going to talk a little bit about some overall trends and whatnot. And that'll kind of be all for this episode. So real quick, just looking at the submission statistics. So there's, I included the link in the show notes. But if you go to the top of that, you'll see a drop down that has event submission statistics, and it'll show you first looking at a breakdown of the factions that are being played. And this year is the so just to start right there, this is the biggest anomaly or discrepancy I have ever seen with this event. They've been doing this event since 2013. There are 62 Crix players, and the next closest faction is Signar at 33. Crix and Signar have typically been pretty high in submission. In past years, Circle's been up there at times. A lot of factions have been up there. But to see Crix and Signar, or sorry, to see Crix basically have twice as many players as its nearest competitor, I think is possibly indicative of an issue. So it yeah, kind of blew me away to look at that. Obviously everybody feels like Crix is the most powerful faction. 62 submissions. There are, I believe there's 64 teams, so that means on average every team has a player that plays Crix, basically every single team. But that said, there are quite a few that doubled up on Crix from when I was kind of floating through. So yeah, Crix is up there. Anyways, the breakdown goes from there. We got Signar in the 30 range. I'm just going to kind of hit all those. We've got Grymkin, Signar, Legion, Trolls, Protector are all kind of hovering around that 30 range. You've got in this mid 20 range, you've kind of got Scorn, Mercs, and Circle. And then to round it out, you've going teams and lower, you've got Khador, Ret, Minions, Convergence, and Crucible Guard. Only 3 Crucible Guard. No surprise there with the availability that they're going to have. We may see more of them next year. I personally think this is a little high for Grymkin, but that is what it is. We got Convergence. Actually, 13 is pretty good there. The rest of these are all kind of where I'd expect. The ones at the bottom-ish. In my opinion, Mercs and Scorn are too low in numbers here, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, so that's the situation with that. So then as we go, so we'll do some breakdowns. Just since it's so big, I'm going to talk about Crix real quick. Top casters, I'm not going to go through all this, just FYI. Top casters, we have Asphyxious 3, no surprise, Scar 1, Denegar 1, Denegar 2, Scar 3. Those are all double digits, and then a few others. There's some surprisers in here. There's a Morton number 2 list. I did not expect to see that. I frankly don't remember what she does, other than Crix things. They have 5 of their 6 theme forces covered. No big surprise there. Nobody really seems to like whatever the Mechanothrone one is. One person's not playing a theme. That was sort of surprising. Dark Host, Black Industries are by far the bigger ones. We're actually seeing 9 Ghost Fleet though, so that's not very many, but I think those 9 lists are probably going to perform better than people expect. Also just something, and we'll talk about this as we get to Circle, of course, but it'll show you the number of entries used. So there were 239 Slayers, 129 Stalkers, 105 Night Wretches, 73 Death Rippers, 54 Machine Wraiths, 53 Wraith Engines, and then it trickles down after that. But I think that's pretty indicative of what we'll see. There are a lot. The Asphyxious 3 lists are almost all the 9 Slayers variety. So, but we'll just go alphabetical from there, and we'll talk about Circle. So, this video probably won't be super duper long, to be totally honest, because I don't think, as Circle goes, that we have a ton to talk about. Basically, zero surprises here. There are 21 Kruger 2s. There are 13 Bradiguses. There are 4 Balder 2s, 2 Una 2s, 2 Taniths. I need to check those lists out, actually. That's curious. A Kaya 2 and a Wormwood. So that was 44 lists, 40 of them in Bones of Orboros, 4 in Call of the Wild. So no surprise there. Stone Shapers, 101. Every Bones list is running at least 2, some of them 3, no surprise. 77 Sentry Stone and Mannequins, no surprise. 67 Shifting Stones, both themes want to play those. A lot of Wold Watchers, a lot of Wold Wardens, a lot of Wold Weirds, a lot of Wayfarers, a lot of Guardians, a few Whites, a few Megaliths, and then it trickles down from there for us. So a little disheartening to only see those 2 themes. I talked about, if you watch my video that we'll post before this one, my personal disappointment in playing double Bones lists. It's just not been enjoyable enough for me. I think some other Circle players feel that way. I do feel like Bones is strong. I feel like it's starting to taper off personally. I think that people are going to, Kruger 2 is going to continue to be strong. He's got a ton of tools, and in the hands of a good player, like, the more you play him, the better it's going to be, and he plays well in a lot of things. But there are things that he doesn't love, and there are things that are hard for other lists to solve, like Bradigus. And so as that goes on, I think we're going to need to adjust, and hopefully that comes in time with our CID to give us an easier time doing that. But I do think that we need to, folks need to look into a little bit more into Devourer's Host and possibly into just the Wild Hunt, maybe even Secret Masters, although I even personally have a lot of trouble building lists I love in that theme. And possibly just looking at Call of the Wild lists, so that you can't just plan for, like, well, they're going to be mostly low defense, high armor, and if I have tools for that. And I think some of the changes with Rust also are going to make some of that a little bit less, a little harder for us. So just something to consider. I'm going to try to find some of the lists here. We'll see. I don't think there's really any too much surprise out there. Like I said, there were, how many did I say there were? 22 players, so out of 64 teams, that's third. 1 out of 3 teams has a Circle player, roughly speaking. So I'm trying to sort of see what I can find here as far as that goes. I also think that there were alternates thrown in here, and so in some cases it was hard to differentiate what like some teams had 6 lists, and so that made it tricky. But we actually had the Czech Republic actually have 2 people who play Circle. We got a Balder 2 Tanith, and Tanith is in, okay, this is one of the Tanith lists. Tanith is in Bones. Interesting list. You got Loki, Paraguardians, Watcher, 2 Shifting Stones with Stonekeepers. Interesting list. And the other one is racking the pretty standard. So I call this the EU build of Kruger 2, if you've ever heard me talk about it. And that's Megalith, 2 Wardens, 2 Weirds, 2 Stone Shapers, 1 Wayfarer, Bogtrog Mistpeaker, 2 Sentry Stones, 1 Shifting Stones, and the Fulcrum. I personally play a different list, if you've heard me talk about it. The most common Bradius list is this one as well. It's the one I've been playing too. 3 Guardians, 2 Whites, 3 Watchers, 3 Stone Shapers, 1 Wayfarer, a Chef, 2 Mannequins, 2 Sentry Stone and Mannequins, and 2 Shifting Stone units. So no surprises there, basically. That was Czech. Denmark. Sorry, I know this is not the most exciting radio, but I don't have memorized who played what. Estonia has a Circle player. Kruger 2, Balder 2. Interesting Balder 2 list, 3 Wold Weirds. I typically think with, he's got 4 with this Kruger 2 list. I personally feel like with Wold Weirds, if you go with more than 2, at 2 they sort of have to debate, do I cast my upkeeps? At more than 2, they just won't cast their upkeeps. And while you think that would be better for you throughout the game, it probably is not. because you're still just getting boostable Power 12s, and that's good, but it's not going to be enough to win most games. That's my my feeling on it anyways. Looking at the Finnish teams now, we've got another pretty stock standard, like I said, Kruger 2. A little different. He's got the 3rd Stone Shaper and a Chef over. Oh, he's got a Guardian instead of no Fulcrum. So little different there. No Misspeaker. The Bradigus list. He's doing 7 Watchers and 2 Guardians. No Whites. That's an interesting variation. But he only has 1 Sentry Stone. Personally, probably would have. Yeah, that's fine. 1 Sentry Stone is fine. So it's Finland, France. Got a Circle player, Tom. He played Circle last year, I think. But yeah, we're looking at pretty typical stuff. So anyways, I'm not even going to continue going through this. Most of the lists are paired up like you'd expect. I don't remember if somebody had an Una in here that was of note. Here's an Una. Double Feral with 8 Scarsfells in Call. Is a Misspeaker. I suppose that's okay. You can actually give Una Isle of Sight that lets her snipe out stuff, so... that's Germany. Robin's playing. Okay, Germany teams look pretty different this year, so I think a lot of their veterans have actually now that they won last year, I think have stepped away. So anyways, normally I would go through a lot of lists, see what else we're seeing, but basically we're seeing what we would expect to see here with Circle. If you follow any of the online trends, I personally am concerned that is going to do well. The one thing really working for them is I still feel like Circle's a bit of a dark horse. That said, Tomasz Mushka, I don't know how to say his last name. I figured out how to say his first name, Tomasz. Has honestly been going to a lot of EU tournaments and wrecking people playing Kruger and Bradigus. I expect he is playing his same list. Oh, one, he did take his Misspeaker out of his career list for 2 Galsgrove, so that was interesting. But I do think he will have success because he's been playing into a lot of stuff and practicing into a lot of stuff, but I'm wondering if a lot of the other folks may struggle, or we may see post-WTC that there's a lot of struggle. Or if people start practicing now that they know that they're getting those lists, or if the teams that they're worried about are playing those lists, you may see them sort of drop off. I think, for example, that Legion is not great for those matchups. I think Primal Terrors is pretty rough, especially some of the variations on it. I think mostly, yeah, Primal Terrors. I don't really like Manowar is a weird one. Kruger should be able to play into it. I didn't look through to see how many like Manowar lists with Eilish were being played, but I think, excuse me, if you want to start being strong in the Circle, doing that, because Rebuke turns off Shield Wall, which actually makes their infantry pretty reliably handled by Kruger. But if you can't rebuke them to turn off Shield Wall, they just wreck us. Vlad 2's decent into a lot of Circle. I think if you can get a decent, some sort of hard to kill infantry that can get to Kruger's stuff, even with his feet and whatnot, I think you're gonna have a rough time playing that list. Is what we're gonna start finding out. Also, just volume of attacks. Kruger 2 can kill a lot of dudes, but he still can only do it so fast, and you still only have so long. And I do think some of these Bones lists will probably, and the Sentry Stones do help with this, but they just can't play on the flanks the way that a lot of other lists can, and that's just my opinion. So, and that's not to say that Bones won't continue to be something that's strong, but I think we're going to start seeing some change up in the pairing after WTC. So I'm going to keep this video a little bit short. That's kind of my take on WTC. But yeah, so that's just kind of how that is. I'm pretty happy about it. Or I'll be pretty happy to see how it goes. I'm not really thrilled to see the number of cricks that I'm seeing. I definitely think that's a bit of a problem. I don't really know what needs to be done about that, but it's one of those things that I don't think it means the meta is healthy right now. I don't know that means that those lists are going to win, but we have never seen this event that skewed in matchups. And at the very least, that means the folks who see themselves as the top of the game and trying to win for their countries feel like Crix is one of the best ways to do that, to a factor of better than two for one. Should Privateer Press do something about that? I don't know. I don't really know what is to be done about it. I mean, Crix was sort of seen at the bottomish of the stack at one point, and now they're more back at the top, obviously. And you know, what do you do about that? Does that mean Slayers are too good? Does it mean their casters are still too good? Does it, you know, do they just not have enough weaknesses? Do other factions just not have enough tools? Are people still just not really practicing for them? Does the Black Industries matchup mean that they have too many unfair advantages? Is there just not enough keeping them in check, right? Like, you know, maybe if you start seeing factions like Circle and Retribution starting to come back, maybe that's going to put Crix in check by itself. Historically, that would have been Signar, though, and Signar being the second highest faction, you wouldn't think that's such a big deal. Pardon me, but yeah, I'm not terribly certain what the solution here is, but it does feel a little bit off. So, anyways, I'm sure we'll be continuing this discussion quite a bit going forward. I would love to hear more about it. So if you have any info, please please show up on social media, Twitter, YouTube here. Facebook, I've got a group. You can hit me up personally, a private message. I have a Discord. I'm on the other Discord. I'd love to talk more about this, of course. And naturally, I'd like to thank you for watching. Bye-bye.